The Fuel Sports Network.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another week of The Bottom Line. The week is finally here. The great Karnak's prediction has officially come true. If you'll remember back before the season started, when all you naysayers didn't think A.J. McCarron was coming back, I said not only is he coming back, but he is playing for the Battlehawks, and he will return to the state of Alabama to stick it to all the Alabama fans that cheered for him so profusely when he won 2 national champions. So this is the week. This is the week that Karnak continues to tell the truth. What can I say? What do you think, Brett? Can you argue with anything I said, Brett?
He hasn't stuck it to the Stallions yet.
That's the missing piece. The missing piece that's going to come to fruition shortly.
It's the final piece.
John Chavis will be sending the house against AJ, and he won't be able to dance around like he's been all season. He's going to taste that turf a little bit Saturday.
He'll be dumping off to Sailors behind that pressure and off to the races, baby. Slice through that weak secondary that's got ambulance rides and all sorts of stuff attached to it. That was bad for Birmingham. Have you heard anything about him? Is he doing okay?
Supposedly he's just got a stinger. They did all x-rays were negative. He supposedly had a stinger. I don't know about JoJo Tillery and the other guy, but halfway through the Memphis game, we were short 3 starters in the secondary, and that does not bode well against St. Louis.
So before we get into the first game that we're going to do, Birmingham at Memphis, let's look at a few of the game's highlights.
Team trying to clinch a playoff spot, as we told Grizzlies. 6'7" on the right side. Martinez floats in for Jordan Thomas. Oh! Only one hand necessary. Did it need on time with Dre Harper. Now you got 48 seconds to work with. Cook is to the air, and he lost the football. Birmingham reaches out for it.
Went to the swing.
Martinez pumps, throws down the seam, and what a catch by Marlon Williams. Hangs on and dances. The hand go up and a signal from Byrne Lake for Memphis. Martinez, deep shot, downfield for Austin to haul it in and house it. 79 yards. What's going to hurt you worse? Screen, Williams to the edge, breaks the tackle, dives toward the end zone, touchdown. Marlon Williams with the extra effort.
So I gotta say, there was a few of those pass plays that kind of reminded me of Butler. They got some big receivers too, and the one catch kind of reminded me a little bit of T.O.
Yeah, we got a little talent in Birmingham. We'll be able to hang in there Saturday.
I tell you what, the thing that I'm most scared of, if you will, is Adrian Martinez. That dude belongs in the NFL. I know they went back and forth on quarterbacks, and you would know better than me, Brett. I think they've settled on Martinez. Like he's QB1 going forward here.
The funny thing about that was running that Stallions group and seeing a lot of comments in my United Football League group. After the first couple of weeks, the majority of Stallions fans was on Carroll, and they would call me or text me or private message me and ask me what I thought. And I said, well, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Martinez is the guy. He looks to be smoother to me. He's got more legs. I said, Matt Corral has just missed too many easy passes. I mean, at times he's making NFL throws, but it's just too inconsistent. So I was high on Martinez after the first two games, and a lot of your Stallions fans were not. But, maybe obviously Martinez proved me right. And after two games, there was just something that I just favored him. He had that, that extra with the scrambling ability.
I'm pretty sure after the first two games, when one played, the other played, both you and I sat here and said Matt Corral should not be the quarterback. Not that he's bad, not that he couldn't help a Memphis, or not that he couldn't help a Michigan or whatever.
Right.
I'm just saying, to me, it was very clear that Adrian Martinez was the guy.
Corral just missed way too many open receivers, and tunnel vision, staring at the receiver, not going through his progressions. And then now Corral, he does have some mobility, but not on the level of Martinez.
No, not even kind of. And I think, Adrian Martinez gives you that dual threat kind of quarterback that, you have to account for both. And sometimes when you have to account for his legs, that keeps him upright in the backfield, able to deliver the ball, because they have to stay in their lanes. They can open up, the rushing lanes for him, as he's dropping back. So, I mean, week 2, we talked about it and we said Adrian Martinez should be the guy. And I mean, I don't know, you, me, Skip Holtz, we must be on the same page now. Finally, I don't know.
Well, I don't expect to see Matt Corral Saturday, unless something unforeseen happens. But Saturday, could be a very big game for the league in general moving forward. And I would expect for the ratings to be better than any UFL game up to this point. And I think it is, like I mentioned, you remember who said it behind the scenes before the season started. I thought the Stallions and Battlehawks was headed for a showdown in St. Louis for the championship game. And it sure appears that way.
Let's not forget, all three of us on here, myself included, we believed that it was that team right there that was going to challenge the Stallions for the USFL conference supremacy on that side. And man, were we wrong. This is another game where, Memphis could have at least, saved some face, or, maybe even gotten back into it a little bit with, 4 games to go, but they just can't get out of their own way. Case Cookus, 3 fumbles. Williams throws the interception. They're turnover after turnover after turnover. I have to look back here. Do you know how many sacks they gave up this week? I'll have.
I'd say 4, 5. It wasn't nearly as many as they.
3.
Okay. Yeah.
So you say to yourself, it was only 3 sacks.
Right.
So they did have that. Not that there weren't pressures and stuff like that. So they did keep them upright, but you saw in the highlights the one play. The Birmingham defender had him by the ankle and he coughs the ball up. I don't know if it's, to me, and Ed, I'll ask you this question. Case Cookus looks shell-shocked. He looks uncomfortable. He even when he isn't pressured, he looks uncomfortable. He
don't look like the same Case Cookus that he was in Philadelphia.
I just think he's been beat so bad these last few weeks that 2 things have happened. He's hearing footsteps that aren't there, number 1.
Yeah.
But number 2, I just think his confidence is shaken. And his decision making's not there now. Because you see whenever their drives are done and he's running to the sideline, it's almost like Coach Flip has to pull him off to the side and just make sure he's okay.
Yeah,
that he's got that he's still into the game. And
you're good. You're good.
It's like he's trying to convince him that things are okay, and it's. I think there's definitely a confidence issue, definitely paranoid. It's hard to blame the guy because he's just been getting battered.
But there's something we've seen it. We're 7 games deep now, or whatever it is, and their offensive line is not good. It's not good. We're 6 games into it. They're not good.
That's why I say I think he's got that timer in his head, and
everything is speeding
back.
Up.
When he drops back, he's like, "Oh my God, I got to get rid of it." They're gonna the rush is here.
Yep.
Even when it's not, he's got to where he just in his mind he's got to get rid of the ball when sometimes he doesn't necessarily need to.
He's got that.
See, you guys aren't as familiar with him with the Philadelphia Stars as I am. His first year, they had a very solid offensive line. Then you go into year 2, and I want to say by the 3rd game of last season, 3 of their 5 starters from the previous year was out. And Case took an absolute beating with the Philadelphia Stars last year. And then, keep in mind the championship game the year before, he broke his leg against the Stallions. Now you go to Memphis, and my opinion, it's not even close. Memphis has the worst offensive line in the UFL, so he's absolutely seeing ghost. And I can't blame him. And that's what I said before the season. Case was the toughest spring football player at quarterback I have seen. Well, he has taken an absolute beating for it. And now we're at where we're at.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And you can tell their lack of running game, the amount of sacks they've given up this year. I don't know how comfortable anybody could be back there under those circumstances. When you can't run the football and then it becomes pin your ears back time. I agree with Ed. That clock just goes from here to here because he's waiting for somebody to just cut him in half.
And I hate it for him because I'm telling you, he was a very pleasant surprise in year 1 of the USFL. And I mean, I hope he will be given another shot with another team next year in the UFL, or he will be with Memphis next year, and the offensive line will be improved. Because to me, he really hasn't been done right the last season and a half with the offensive line that he's had in front of him. And I just hope it hasn't ruined his career.
On one of the Fox, I can't remember which one it was, but they have been talking about the UFL at times. And I can't remember which show it was on, but they made a comment, and I can't say that I disagree with them. They said there are NFL players all over this league, except for one spot, offensive linemen. They don't believe that there are too many offensive linemen in this league that can play at the next level. I'm not saying they're correct, but that's the one spot they're like, the offensive linemen are just not at the caliber.
Well, that's what a lot of NFL teams struggle to field a really good, strong offensive line. That is the defensive lines in professional football right now are head and shoulders better than offensive lines, and I think the UFL and the NFL has showed that.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to a break, and when we come back, we'll move on to the Houston-St. Louis game. We had Houston traveling to St. Louis for the second game on Saturday. And let's catch the highlights on that game, and we'll talk when they're finished.
Heavy, JJ, 180, right side.
In the UFL that he can move, get him on the edge, make a play.
Hakeem Butler is a dude, man.
When I first, I should say, while I was watching that game in the Dome, I just kept saying to myself, God, they're not playing that well. They're not playing that well. The Battlehawks just aren't playing that well. And then I got to thinking, you know what? It's not always that you can say that your team isn't playing well, because you forget that there is another team on the other side of the ball, right? And I think that Houston's defense was a pretty formidable defense. Houston's got a good defense. Their only problem is that their offense is all geared towards playing with the lead. They've got to have the lead because then they can have Thompson run right, run left. I mean, they can just let their running game take over. When they get behind and they can't afford to do all that running, they're in trouble. But their defense definitely kept them in that game, really all the way through to the fourth quarter. If they would have had any offense at all, consistency-wise, they could have really put the heat on St. Louis.
And I realize they're going to try to. This is Thompson's second week back, I believe, or maybe third week.
Yeah.
I know they're going to feed him. I know they're going to give him the ball and as much as they can. When they get down, I think Reed Sinnott ended up throwing for 30-plus passes, which is not something they want to do. But I haven't been that impressed so far with Mark Thompson. He has not been the game changer that I thought when he came back he would be. I know he had that touchdown run we saw in the highlights, but he had 13 carries, 46 yards.
Right.
In that one touchdown. And that was along a 16. So if you make it 12 carries for 30 yards, it's under 3.
But
so I don't know if that's a Mark Thompson thing or if that's an O-line thing, but I know Pledger outrushed him by almost 2 yards a carry. So
the thing is though that as a defense, if you don't have to respect the passing game, any defense that's very good at all is going to be able to take away the one thing that you do best, or at least slow them down.
Yeah,
they basically on defense they were ball hawking Thompson because they knew that he was going to be the man.
And I 100% agree with you there, but I will say this: there's, you look in the NFL. If you have a Saquon Barkley or you have some of these premier running backs and things like that, a lot of those guys are still eating their yards. They're still eating their yards. And Mark Thompson just hasn't been able to do that yet.
Yeah. I looking at how Mark is running, I don't know if he's 100% or not. He seems awful tender-footed, I guess you could say. He does not seem like the running back he was in year one of the UFL. Now, this is his third straight year in spring ball. I can't remember where he played before that, and I can't remember his age right off the top of my head, but you have to wonder, is he completely healthy? Has he lost a little tread off those tires in 3 years? I know Houston ran him to death the 2 years in the USFL, and if that's had a kind of a long-term effect on him.
And it very well may be. It very well may be. And Sandy says it, slow motion is what I'm seeing. Yeah,
he don't seem like the same runner. He
don't look explosive. And I'm not saying it's all on Mark, but usually when you have the type of back that I think we all feel Mark Thompson is, 13 carries for 46 yards just isn't what you expect. Even if the defense is loading up on it, you expect him to have a little more explosion. And I think there were a couple times where I thought he had the opportunity to explode and he just didn't get there. I thought he had a bigger hole and he just didn't get there.
You mentioned it just a second ago. They played the Stallions the week before, and it looked to me like he wasn't the best running back on the Houston team, and that's what it kind of looked like Saturday.
Yeah,
and he got, after year one with the USFL, I can't remember what NFL team picked him up, but he got a hard look with that team. Didn't make it. Ended up, getting back in the USFL. But you go back and look at his highlights from year one of the USFL until now, and it's something's not there. And I just don't see him being 100%. But
because isn't he something like 6'2", 245 pounds? I mean,
he's a big guy. It reminds me of when Bo Scarborough with the Stallions came in year one. And then Bo Scarborough, the first game last year, and then he ended up getting hurt. And finally, his knee didn't recover. And they went ahead and did the right thing and let him retire as opposed to cutting him. And I wonder if I can't remember what injury it was on Mark, but he got knocked out for the season last year, midway or 6th, 7th game last year. And I wonder, has his knee not fully recovered, similar to Scarborough? And that's why we're not seeing the same running back, because he's not the same Mark Thompson I saw with the Houston Gamblers 3 years ago. He's just not.
Like I said, I was surprised by the lack of explosion that he had on some of those plays, and you saw the
lack of physicality for such a physical running back.
Even when a Wes Hills for Michigan doesn't have a great game, man, he is putting it on you. You tackle him at the line of scrimmage or for a loss, he's still putting it on you. I didn't see that from Thompson. So, you could be right. There could be something maybe not right about him yet. But when he got here, I thought I expected more like a Wes Hills type runner. And we just haven't seen that in the last 2.5 games or however long he's been back. So I don't know. I guess I wasn't that impressed. I hate to sell him short, but I just wasn't that impressed.
Well,
St. Louis' defense is good, but I don't think they're that good if Thompson is a great back.
Well, again, I revert back to Bo with Birmingham. Birmingham was fortunate to have a deeper running back room, and they just said that Bo was going to get cut. That Coach Holtz came to him and said, "Hey, your knee's not right," and whatever the conversation was, and they did him a solid and let him retire, because I heard in practice he just did not have it, and right now Mark Thompson just does not have it, and I hope he can recover it, because he was good for spring football and he was a damn good running back, but he's not the same Mark Thompson.
No.
So answer me this question. It was late in the first half. The Battlehawks were up 6-0, and out of timeouts. They're driving for they're getting close to the goal line. No timeouts, right? CJ calls 2 timeouts with less than, I think one was there was like 16 seconds left. There was another one with like 8 seconds left or something like that. And I'm like, we got the ball. The Battlehawks got the ball on the 1 foot line, and we got to try and come up with a play to get a quick score. Why do you want to call a timeout and give us give the Battlehawks a chance to talk to coaches, talk about plays, talk about blocking assignments? And then he not only does it once, he does it twice, and it's like, what are you doing? I mean,
well,
defense.
I've mentioned it. If I've mentioned it once, I've mentioned it a dozen times on the show. I'm not a fan of his. Go and look at his coaching record. They really speak for themselves. When Birmingham hired Skip Holtz, there was some mumblings and all that. And I said, go back and look at Skip's record. He's been successful everywhere he's been. You got a coach that's been to 3, 4, 5 locations, and they win everywhere they've been. That should tell you something.
Right.
Also, with the Houston coach, he's lost everywhere he's been. Hello. And, I'm the first to defend the Houston fan base. You stick the Roughnecks brand, you give them that brand back, then you stick them with Houston Gambler players, Houston Gambler coaches. You've got a Houston Roughnecks team that was 5-0 in 2020. They were, I think, 6-4 last year, won their division, made it to the playoffs. And then you give them this, and then they're playing in a dump of a stadium while their stadium's under construction, and people are expecting them to have 15, 20,000 in the stands. It don't work that way. And I've talked to many league representatives, and they know there's a lot involved with the Houston market right now, and they understand it. So there definitely needs to be patience with that franchise, but not on that sideline. They need a real coach on that sideline. And that, look, I said day one, halftime of the first game, he was in there talking to the players. Camera was in there, and you could see all the players lined up on the wall, rolling their eyes. That was the first game of the season. That should tell you really all you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't grab my phone fast enough when he called that timeout before halftime. I was texting you guys, what is he doing? Why is he
while you were texting me, I was sitting here doing this while you were texting me.
Yeah. All you did was give A.J. McCarron a chance to throw that absolute perfect pass to Mitchell in the corner over top of the defender, and you give up a touchdown.
Well, that was a hell of a grab, too.
It was a hell of a throw and a hell of a grab.
Really, that was a huge play in that game because if he doesn't make that catch, it's 6-0 at halftime. It's a totally different, but 6-0 in a game like that sounded way different than 14-0.
Yeah,
at halftime, I didn't, during the game, the previous games this season, I always feel uneasy, like things could go terribly bad. As close as that game was on Saturday, from beginning to end, I wasn't feeling like we was ever out of control of that game.
The biggest
I agree. I never thought you guys had a chance of losing. That Houston just does not have enough on the sidelines and certain key positions of that roster.
Well, the thing that I look at the most, and this is probably where, well, I mean, there's certainly more differences than just that, but like this coming weekend with the game between the Bass and Birmingham, Houston just does not have, unless you have an absolute breakdown. What threat does Houston give you that St. Louis does? Oh, Butler gets deep, he's gone for 80. Oh, JP's he's deep, he's gone for 8. Whatever it is, like that no matter what the score is with St. Louis, it takes just a few minutes and St. Louis is right back on your tail. And right. I feel that way with Birmingham. The Birmingham with Adrian Martinez in there has that same ability. And I think as you see across the league, I would say that there's only 3 teams that really truly have that. I would say Birmingham, St. Louis, and San Antonio. Michigan doesn't really have that. I mean, Sims, I get it. He's broke some big ones, but the long one that Sims broke, I think last week or the week before, was a 7-yard out that had 2 missed tackles on it. I'm talking about guys that the teams are actually stretching the field. Not that Sims can't, but they're actually stretching the field, and they're getting beyond the defense, and they're completing those plays. I think there's only 3 teams in the league that have shown that potential. So when you get a 14-point lead on a Houston, it's almost like, well, we're not playing the greatest, but 14 seems insurmountable for Houston.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even a Memphis. You get up 14, you're like, all right, we got to put one more score up and Memphis is dead in the water. That's just how I see it. I think there's only 3 teams that if you're up 14, you go, man, 14 is not enough.
Right.
Not enough. And that's San Antonio, St. Louis, and Birmingham. Outside of that, yeah, I know there's some fluky deals, but on any given Saturday or Sunday, I think those are the 3 teams that a 14-point lead isn't safe with. And the other teams, I get it. Some things can happen, but on an average Saturday or Sunday, I just don't think I don't think they have the same powder in the keg, if you will, that those 3 teams do.
I would have agreed with you with San Antonio until they had their quarterback out for the year. Sorry, yes. Normandy. San Antonio, and it was so glaringly obvious in yesterday's game that they really missed QB1.
Oh, 100%.
I think if they had QB1 yesterday, it would have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about that very game, DC and San Antonio.
Houston, we've triumphed. I've made it back to Earth with the cargo intact. The game-changing, time-sensitive payload is none other than the revolutionary energy flavor we've all been waiting for. Introducing Merc Mayhem Cherry Limeade. Merc Clan played a crucial role in securing this energy flavor, and together we've unlocked the future of power. Merc Mayhem is not just a drink, it's a statement, a fusion of relentless energy and bold flavor. The secret is out. Merc Mayhem is set to redefine the energy landscape, leaving ordinary drinks in its cosmic dust. Get ready for a taste explosion that matches Merc Clan's unparalleled power. Join the revolution, and let's unleash Merc Mayhem upon the world. Astronaut M signing off.
we're going to kind of go in a reverse order of the Sunday games because we've got our president of the Michigan chapter joining us to talk a little Michigan football. So let's first off look at the highlights for DC and San Antonio.
How positioning goes, more importantly, it's just about getting a win for these two teams. And the hometown defenders have
300 yards and a couple of scores.
First pass. And, it's intercepted. Diving pick made by Enfolu Kelly. They're going to say he was down after the reception, but the interception should count. Right now, DC has it to start the second quarter, and that's dropped out of the backfield. White, that's a lateral ball, and it's still live. San Antonio has it. Big third down for Tamu. Up top, got a man rolling, makes the catch. Inside the 10-yard line, first and goal, defenders.
What a beautiful catch from Roland, right over the
28 yards to the 2-yard line. Cam Harris, easy. Touchdown, defenders. Normandy to the sideline, and it's caught for a touchdown. John Levitt out of the backfield. And loss of a yard or 2 yards on the last play, 3rd and 11. Towards the end zone, caught. Touchdown, Kelvin Harmon.
That was a huge game for DC, one that they had to have. So now you basically have both those teams within striking distance that are scratching and clawing for that second playoff spot. But boy, guys, I got to tell you, when you talk about the quarterback situation for both teams, you can't tell me that they're feeling real good about the way either one's playing. I don't know what's going on with Tamu this year. He just doesn't seem to be.
There's no magic.
The same doesn't seem to be the quarterback that he was last year, and I don't know. I know he ended last season with a hand injury. Can't say that I've heard or seen any signs of anything linger into this year at all. But I don't know whether it's his confidence, what exactly it is, but it just doesn't seem like the same Tamu. And for all the hype that there was for Normandy once he come in to take over for, the injury that they had, I'm not. Normandy didn't play a very good game either. So I'm thinking both teams are kind of got that little Perez name flopping around in the back of their head, and who knows?
Luis Perez. I wish I could say it like that.
Perez.
Luis Perez.
It's not in my redneck dialect, man. I would love to be able to say it like that because, what's the that runs the Renegades page? I told him I'll watch your show if you promise to say, Gabe. If he promised to say Luis Perez at least 5 times, I'll watch it. Because every time he says it, it's like, man, that sounds good.
I don't know. I mean, I know that the Battlehawks caught lightning in a bottle last week, and they kind of got the perfect storm, and everything clicked, and they were able to pull away in the fourth quarter. But, if you're doing any kind of direct comparison between the Battlehawks and the Brahmas, I don't know. San Antonio didn't bring their A game to DC.
They really missed Chase Garber.
Yeah.
And I know they had a couple defensive linemen out yesterday as well, so I know that hurt. But Jordan Tiamu, and I remember how he played with the Tampa Bay Bandits. He wasn't that guy there either. He is a play-action quarterback. If his team can run the ball, Jordan's dangerous. And if you look yesterday, DC finally a little bit looked like last year's DC because they were able to run the ball, which in turn, you hit Harmon on a couple big passes. He's different when they're able to run the ball, but they've got to have a running game. Jordan Tiamu is not a 35 or 40 pass guy. You don't want him throwing the ball that much. That means you're behind and you're going to get a couple picks.
Well, I mean, honestly, for me, this was as big a game as it was. It truly was. You win it. No, you win it. No, we don't want it. You win it. No, all right, we'll finally take it. Like, it just didn't seem like San Antonio was playing with any kind of urgency. I mean, not that they're out of anything, but it didn't seem like they were playing with any sense of urgency. Kirkland was almost non-existent. It just, and I know Dormady wasn't good, but I mean, if Kirkland could get open, you would think that they would talk about, like, hey, he's open downfield. Hey, we got to get him on a cross or whatever it is. But on the flip side of that, DC did run the ball at times, like you mentioned, Brett. At times, like the old DC. But man, you just keep waiting for a play, an interception, a reverse pass that the back doesn't go for, and San Antonio picks. When that play happened on Sunday,
my God,
this is exactly what I said to myself. I said, well, San Antonio's got this game because DC doesn't want it very much. But then San Antonio lays kind of an offensive egg. They don't really do anything, and then they end up losing 18-12. I mean, 18-12. If you're going to compete, I know any given Sunday, any given Saturday, whatever you want to say, but if you're going to compete with the Birmingham, if you're going to compete with St. Louis on any given Sunday or Saturday, you could jump up and beat them here, but on average, you're not beating them with performances like those two teams had on Sunday in a big spot for both of them.
No.
He obviously really, really needed to win it to get back to 3-3, but San Antonio could have stuck a fork in DC for the most part, and it could have been just are we playing in St. Louis or are we playing in San Antonio for the conference championship? And they couldn't do it. I mean, they just looked dead in the water, and I could not believe what my eyes were seeing on the TV in such a huge game by both teams. I mean, it almost came to the end where I was like, well, I guess somebody's got to win this game. Seriously, that felt like it did not feel like a game where San Antonio recognized the importance that it could actually be for them. I mean, if they win that game, they're 3 games up, 3 or 2.5, whatever it would be.
I might be wrong, but I still think if they had Chase Garbers, I think San Antonio would have absolutely won yesterday. But Dormady just.
One thing that's interesting to note too, with Wade Phillips, when he was head coach of the Houston Roughnecks, both years he started fast. I think one year they may even been 5-0 or whatever with one of the Houston teams. And it seemed like the second half of the season, they kind of started losing something. Now, last year they had a reason because Kirkland went down with an injury and it just totally changed their offense. But
I don't think they won another regular season game after Kirkland went down last year. Maybe I'm wrong.
It seems like both years in the XFL, Wade Phillips started fast and the Wade Phillips teams finished very mediocre.
Well, last year they were 5-0, and they finished 1-4.
Yeah. You'll notice. Yeah, and you notice last year, they had everything right ahead of them when the playoffs come, and they ended up losing to Arlington. And I don't know. I just thought for what was the stakes of that game were very high. Like you said, San Antonio had a chance to stick a fork in them.
3 games with 4 play. And they couldn't do it.
Yeah, and so it really surprised me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's go to another break, and when we come back, we'll cover the final game of the week. Oh, gosh, here we go.
Same great taste. Yes, same great taste. Same great taste.
Well, before I go to the highlights of the Arlington, Michigan game, should I bring him in first?
I suppose you better.
Bring in Mike.
I should have another intro for him, but I'm just going to bring him on this time. What's up, Mike?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, dude.
I
There
got
you
you.
go.
What's up, guys? Another
So
day.
another
victory.
so another last second field goal to win, huh?
Hey, if pro football, you win by one, you win by 1,000. Winning's winning.
It still counts, right?
Oh yeah, there's no AP top 25, none of that. It's wins.
The
and losses.
Michigan fans don't cheer for anybody, but when Bates walks on the field, it's like Bates. I
mean,
Bates.
I had to tell fans, hey, let's quiet. Hey, let him go do his thing. But I watched the replay. Probably one of the louder moments too of that game was that fourth down stuff. When Arlington tried to run the ball, the fourth and short stuffed at the line of scrimmage, the crowd just it is when you think about the crowd there, it's louder than what you think as far as like the crowd. Good energy there. So one more to go. Hopefully we get a great showing. All the fans coming out one more time for these guys this year. They deserve it.
Let's watch the highlights and we'll talk about the game on the other end.
His mobility, used it there to pick up the first.
Yeah, he acted like he was going to prove he was mobile today when we were talking with him before the game. Etling going deep, looking down the sidelines and taking a shot. The ball is underthrown. First and goal.
Are you ready, son?
39-yard completion. Now Etling back to the air, and he finds COC Mariner, who finds the end. Second and 5. Scott stays in on the pitch. Tough catch. Hunter made it. Now stops and starts again. And Hunter down the sidelines and into the end zone. Range. One timeout left. Looking for more. Perez for the end zone. Caught. Touchdown. Canella. Put it at the 14 or it's first down. Devion Smith, the running back. They'll give it instead on the end around to Javante Payton. Payton with a full head of steam. And Payton tiptoeing down the sideline for the touchdown. First start in Arlington territory at the 46. Etling on the keep. Etling with room to run. Look at Danny Etling go. Inside the 10. Etling.
Are you ready, son?
Second and goal. Etling hands it. Hills to the end zone. And Hills
There's a touchdown.
Makes this field goal from 48 for Garibay. Up, and Arlington has the lead.
After pulling that last one.
From 42 for the win. Bates, he's got it. Michigan wins it. Jake Bates, the hero again in Detroit.
What they need to tell Arlington, you got to feel for them, but what they got to tell Arlington is There's not 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter. There's not 14 minutes in the fourth quarter. There's 15. Because it seems like every time they get themselves in a position to win a football game, they leave the other team too much time to take the lead right back again.
And they're going to ruin somebody's season who's in a playoff chase. We just don't know who yet. And no one wants to be when people see that donut in front of as the first number on a team record, no one wants to be the team to give that team their first win. So everyone's going to give, their best shot to not lose to that team.
You don't agree with that, do you, Mike?
I was thinking about who my MVP would be. I would actually, for the Michigan Panthers so far, I would actually give it to Marcus Sims. I think he's been every game. He's had an impact play, touchdown. This case, he's last game, that big kick return was set up Bates. So as much as we love Bates, watching Bates, but there's a few players, there's a few impact players Michigan has. But I would give the nod as the top player that I think makes impact every game, Marcus Sims.
Mike, the one thing that I'll ask you, there's one takeaway that I have from this game that alarms me a little bit. And the thing that alarms me the most, and maybe it doesn't you, I was surprised at how well at times Arlington moved the ball on Michigan's defense. Did that alarm you being there?
Well, watching the game too, I said I was like, well, they're beating Michigan on the edge. So when the outside runs, anything on the outside, wide receiver, end around, if that's where they're beating Michigan. So whether I had fans, behind me like, oh, Michigan needs to get out of their zone, they need to go to man. So they're gonna, obviously, even with a win like this, I'm sure the linebacker defense is going to go over a lot of film. So they got a lot of stuff to address, especially getting beat on the outside like that throughout the game.
I know, Brett, this one won't sit good with Brett, but Sabrina's comment right there. Sabrina, I'm all for it. St. Louis needs to avenge that opening week debacle that was in Michigan. We need that. So I'm with you, Sabrina. I'll take Michigan.
We're like
Louis
that
championship.
We're like a 64-yard field goal away from 6-0 versus 6-0 this week.
Yeah.
And instead, Sabrina was tailgating with us in Michigan, so she got to see that firsthand too. Makes for a very long trip home.
That's gonna have, if that happens, then I may have to take the trip to St. Louis. You guys are gonna have to host me there. So maybe a full circle on the season. How about that?
Put that other comment up there, Ed, from the Predator couple. This is for Brett, I'm sure. Had an amazing experience in St. Louis this past weekend. I mean, I don't know where you're coming from on this, Brett. I just don't know.
I mean, I got to say one thing. The Predator couple come and stayed with us for the weekend. The Rig Rocker was in St. Louis, stayed with us. Rig stayed at our place for the weekend. And for all the bad rap that St. Louis gets, I don't know how much of it is true and how much of it is just, I don't know, what they want to portray the St. Louis fans to be. But
I think, in all honesty,
the Predator couple and the Rig Rocker had nothing but great things to say about the city of St. Louis, the St. Louis fans, the tailgate experience, everything. But it just seems like, I
think a lot of my perception and some other folks' perception is the fact that the fan base is so large, so they're going to automatically have a few more of those. And every fan base, unfortunately, has those. I've been at an Alabama LSU game to where I went over there and told 2 or 3 guys to chill out, calm down, and show some class. That was, to me, to Alabama fans, how they were treating the LSU fans in the stadium. And if you're familiar with Southeastern Conference football, there's nobody any raunchier than LSU fans. But, me and some other fans made a point to go over there and tell them, act with some class. You reflect bad on all of us by behaving that way. So I might give them more crap publicly than what I should, because they have so many more fans than some other teams that have not been established for 3 years. And so I do think, in all honesty, that probably plays a part in it without question.
Well, I know that with the championship game being in St. Louis, I know there's going to be a lot of super fans coming back to St. Louis, with the Predator couple being one of them, Rig Rocker and you name it. It's going to be an awesome event, because I tell you what, that tailgate lot, by the time it gets to be 2 hours before the game, it's packed full. And when I say full, there's a lot, it's full. And to have, I know the Predator couple and Rig Rocker, they were exhausted by the time the tailgate was over, because they couldn't go by one tailgate that they didn't want them to stop and take pictures with them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the tailgating experience.
But back to Michigan. Mike's here. Back to Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Back to Michigan.
Back to Michigan. Mike wants to talk Michigan. I mean, they're 4-2. He wants to talk about Michigan.
Michigan.
Another thing, Mike, how impressed were you with Ettling's performance?
I think he's won the job. I mean, if EJ Perry was ready to go, I mean, that's what a decision to make by Coach Marcel. We all are appreciative of EJ Perry's contributions from the North Division Championship last year, the few games this year before he got hurt. But Ettling's really, at first, I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't think he's the guy. But now, watching him play, he looks good in the pocket. I was a little skeptic about his running ability, but we saw that he's got some speed yesterday, that long run at the end of the game. But he's looking good as a passer. I think Michigan's got a lot going for him.
I will tell you. Oh, sorry. I got one more question for Mike.
Okay.
Ed, one more. The thing that concerns me, and his receivers bailed him out a couple of times on Sunday, is, am I missing something, or does Perry have a little bit more arm in him than Ettling? Ettling underthrew a couple balls, and they made some adjustments and came back and got it when they probably shouldn't have. Made great plays. Do you think that maybe hampers Michigan's downfield ability? Not that Michigan really tries to get down the field. I mean, but do you think that hampers them a little bit, and defenses are going to see that Ettling doesn't quite have the arm to get it downfield compared to maybe Perry?
Well, I was watching another show today, and they talked about briefly the difference between the Panthers' offense last year to this year. This year with Coach Marcel Belfay's offense, it's not as complex as the offense was last year. And now with last year's game in the North, championship game, and EJ Perry threw for 300 some yards in that North Division game. So he does have the arm. I mean, I watched it. I was there in person. He was able to launch it down the field. So, but we also seen Ettling throw a launch a couple down the field. Now, a couple were short where, Sims had to go backtrack and grab it, but the ball's still getting there. But still plenty of games to go. We have four games left, and we'll see how he plays. Looking forward to it.
So you're sitting in the coaches' room. Mike Palco is sitting with the coaches, and the discussion comes up. Do we contact Arlington Renegades and see if they have any interest in trading Luis Perez? Does Mike Palco have any interest, or is he telling the coaches, forget about it?
We got our guys we want to win this championship with. So I'd say stick with Danny Ettling. Right now, I love how he's playing. I think the team's playing really well. So why mess with it? I would stick with Ettling.
But so you would give up on the King of Spring. You would give up the King of Spring.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Danny Ettling.
Well, I mean, does he know how well would he adjust to the offense? Does he know the concepts? He's now he does come from a Bob Stoops system, so it's spread out, throw it around kind of offense. But I'm not one to believe in messing what you already have. If it's something that's already working, don't play around with it, because we did see. I know we have Ettling. We just saw he got his He didn't play the full game against San Antonio, but you got to see a little glimpse. He had some good numbers in that game through a touchdown pass, but it seems to be like every game he's progressively getting better. So, lot can happen, of course, but I don't wish injury to ever happen to any player, but unfortunately, it's inherent to the game, and you're always one play away. But but I don't think you make the QB change.
So that's going to finish the first hour of the Bottom Line show. We'll be ending our time on the Fuel Sports Network on Roku and Amazon Fire Stick. So when we come back for the second hour, we'll get into previewing week 7.
Studs and duds.
And we will be, we'll have studs and duds. We got all kind of stuff we got left to do. So Facebook, you'll want to hit UFan Legion. I believe we'll even be live on Pro Football Alliance, but we will be back.
Go, 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 go. Go, go, go. Go, go, go.
Hit for my wins, I need my hands. This life is real, and play pretend. Came off the bench, I get it in, I get it in, I get it in. Hit for my wins, I need my hands. This life is real, and play pretend. Came off the bench, I get it in, I get it in, I get it in. I'm on my job, I get it done, but you should know that. Shine like a sun of 101, you should know that. I get the front and in the back, you should know that. No need to stun, it's never cap, you should know that. All I know, 10 toes, never fold, bang roll, on the go, ice wall, ice wall, ice wall. Hit for my win, I need my hands. This life is real, and play pretend. Came off the bench, I get it in, I get it in, I get it in. Hit for my win, I need my hands. This life is real, and play pretend. Came off the bench, I get it in, I get it in, I get it in.
This is the Fuel Sports Network.
And that's the bottom line.
You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Nobody talk about it.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Hour two, and we're starting off with
And the cream rises to the top.
To the top. Oh, yeah. And believe it or not, the Michigan Panthers are part of that cream rising to the top, right?
We got
That's right.
Is it one more win, Mike? And you got the playoff spot all locked up with 3 games to go.
Well, my preseason prediction was 6-4, and I think 6 gets you in. Now, depending on how, obviously the divisional matchups, if the other conference beats the one that you're in, you may not need to maybe necessarily get all those wins to lock you in, but I think 6, that's the comfortable number to have.
Well, yeah, you're looking at 2 1-5 teams below you. You have a three game lead with 4 to go. I gotta believe
it have to be a devastating. Yeah,
it almost would have to be a colossal collapse for them to get that second playoff spot.
Yeah.
So
Mike,
let's get
have
into
you thought about Michigan going straight to Birmingham for Week 10, 11 o'clock game, first week of June, probably 90, 95 degrees, and then having to turn right back around and come back to Birmingham the very next week for the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. This week's going to be an interesting one, so looking forward
Hopefully
to
the playoff game's a night game. I was talking to Ed about that earlier. I've got my fingers
I
crossed.
hope so. You got Michigan, you got Birmingham, Michigan, 2 major, as far as television ratings, I think you have to, in Fox, you got to make that prime time. I think that's got to be. I think they'll have both of them in prime time. I think it won't be 2 games in one day.
No, that's why I mentioned it to Ed earlier. I want to say the Saturday there's the Saturday game's a night game and the Sunday game's a day game, or vice versa. I've already checked. One's I think 7 and one's at 3. So if you're gonna have the playoffs in Birmingham, you really need to have that game as the night game. But
you know what's interesting is the fact that as you guys talk about your Week 10 and the first week of the playoffs, possibly in Michigan going to Birmingham 2 weeks in a row, that same scenario can be playing out with San Antonio coming to St. Louis in Week 10 and then having to turn around 1 week later and come right back to St. Louis again. So it's kind of ironic that
coming to the dome. Coming to the 72-degree dome is a little bit better than coming to the 95-degree burner that is Birmingham.
The first and second week of June, UFL moving forward, please start back in February, the week after the Super Bowl. You're welcome.
I have a question. That's one thing I thought about too. Well, if you move the league to that starting time, because what I liked about having it where the USFL, and this is I don't know how many people listen. You got to listen though. Gotta listen, Brett. Don't blow up yet. Brett's blow up. But hey, pro days. When you have these pro days, they're just before the USFL season when it was back in 2023. Because I know they go to these pro days. And can you imagine at the Alabama Pro Day, you got all these NFL teams, but then also you'd have maybe Skip Holt showing up, Mike Nolan, because all them Alabama players aren't going to the NFL. But that when all of these UFL teams start showing up to these pro days, you're like, oh, okay, well, if this doesn't pan out, well, you got Skip Holtz right there, Mike Nolan right there, Steve Kaiser going to these pro days. So I think that's really nice too, because 2023, they were all able to go to these pro days to check out the talent firsthand and see how they do in the drill. So that's one thing to consider to why I'm not necessarily the biggest. I understand your reason, Brett, with the temperature and everything like that, but with the early start dates for the season, I like it where it'd be after the pro day.
Well, you know what, Brett? Daryl Johnston, when it comes to the playoffs, as much as you want him to think about heat, this is what he'll say.
I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money.
Know what I'm saying?
Well, I got news for Mr. Daryl Johnson, and I have talked to him personally about this in Canton and in Birmingham, and that's why when they tried to introduce me to him last time, and he just grinned and said, "I know Brett. I've talked to him," because I can't hold my tongue. If they are worried about attendance, they need to be in Birmingham, Memphis, Arlington, Houston, all your southern markets that are not in domes. It makes a big difference having fans sit in a stadium that's 60 degrees as opposed to 95. As diehard a fan as I am, I left at halftime of a game last year because it was too bad. I'm not going to have a heat stroke. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not the only person that feels that way. So they really need to take that into account. If they are worried about attendance and growing the markets and the fan bases, you've got 3 venues with a dome. Well, 4 out of the other 5 venues are in the hot box. And come May and June, it is very hot down here. So that I'll leave that up to them. That's why they get paid the big bucks.
And I listened to a talk show today, and they were talking about the very fact that UFL is strongly considering adopting the XFL calendar next year and starting right after the Super Bowl. So if that holds true, God, I can only hope, because when you get into May, June,
St. Louis fans are going to be so spoiled Saturday because it was 89 here today. Felt like about 92. It's supposed to be 75 and partly cloudy Saturday. They have no idea how lucky they are and how lucky we all are. And it should help attendance.
They're going to show up and they're going to be saying, "What's that guy on the bottom line bitching about? It's beautiful out here."
Man, it's not hot down here at all.
So let's.
Meanwhile, everybody's got suntans, got farmers' tans at the game from down here.
Yeah, that's good. Let's get to the studs and duds, Eric.
All right, let's run through the studs and duds real quick for week 6 in the UFL. And topping my stud list this week is, again, in week 2, as Brett and I pointed out, Adrian Martinez should be the starting quarterback for the Birmingham Stallions, and I believe he now is QB1 solidified. He tops the list with 369 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a QB rating of 135.1. That's a stud day. So Adrian Martinez definitely tops the list. Other studs, my man Hakeem Butler. I can't say enough about this guy. I don't know how. And somebody help me out on this panel here. Help me out. How does this man not stick on an NFL team?
Well,
he must have hurt some feelings, or is there something off the field we're not aware of?
I don't know, but is he a tweener? Is he in between what the NFL is looking at for a wide receiver?
You know who he reminds me of, but he's more athletic? Who is the tight end? And Mike, I know you know this. Who is the tight end that played for the Arlington Renegades, XFL 2020. He ran that long touchdown back in Seattle. You know who I'm talking about. He is now one of the tight ends for the San Diego Chargers. That is the comparison. Every time I see the guy run with the ball, except for he's faster and can jump higher and is in better shape than this guy. There's no way, no reason, no anything why he's not on the NFL roster.
Look at that.
But somebody needs to look that up, and somebody in the comment box will probably know who I'm talking about, because last year I want to say he plays for the Rams or the Chargers. It was in LA, and he took a bad hit, and they were scared I think they took him out on a stretcher, but he ended up being all right. I can't think of the gentleman's name. Huge guy that played for the Renegades in 2020, but that is a big comparison.
I know that the Hakeem Butler was going to make the roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year, and he got injured, and it ended up costing him a roster spot. But our friend from one of the other shows, whose first name starts with Dirty, would tell you, Eric, that there was 2 passes in the game on Saturday that were right in his hands, and he dropped them. And that's what he continues to. That's what. And it's when that happens, all I'm like is, oh God, it's not going to go to bed now again. They're going to keep. But I'm saying about it.
It's game 6. How many drop passes would you say he has in 6 games? 3, maybe.
Well, the guy's 6'6". If you throw it at his knees, he's gonna have a problem.
He's a beast. In DC, he looked like a man amongst boys.
When he ran away from that quarterback, looking behind him, that dude has some speed. I cannot understand. He comes into the UFL, puts up these gaudy numbers, makes these plays. I mean, that play in San Antonio where he rose up between 3 guys catches the ball and brings it down. I just don't understand.
Okay, we got enough of the Butler talk. Get back to your studs.
Okay,
we'll get done about midnight.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about Hakeem Butler. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. The St. Louis defense with Willie Harvey leading with 9 tackles. You know, they held Houston. Not that that's a big deal to 8. Well, actually 6 points. The 2 points was a safety or a punter. I don't know why he ran out of bounds. He could have felt the 1 yard line. But whatever, held him to 6. I think that's 6 points over the last 6 quarters. And the previous game, they blanked, was it Memphis? I think it was Memphis in the second half as well. So the St. Louis defense is definitely playing high. Of course, I have to do this for you, Mike. Jake Bates, 5 for 5 with another long of 60. The dude's incredible. I can't imagine that he'll be back in the UFL. So you'll have to find another kicker and come back to earth with the rest of us. Not that the kickers are bad in the UFL anyway. Michael Joseph for DC with 13 tackles, played a whale of a game. He's one of their leading players, definitely on defense. And then John Lovett had 153 yards for San Antonio. He was the leading rusher on the ground by far in the UFL this weekend. Duds, oh boy. Quentin Dormady, 79 yards in a huge game with DC. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, QB rating of 62.8. Yuck. I mean, St. Louis's punter, Hoffrichter, in a big spot, kicks about a 15-yarder. We just went for it. You wish you just say to the coach, hey, I feel like I got a bad one in me. You just go for it type of thing. Hey, Coach, I'm only kicking this from 15 yards. I mean, Ed, you were there.
Ugly.
Was it as ugly in person? Was it as ugly in person as it was on TV?
Up over the side and onto the field so I could stop that ball from rolling the wrong way. I mean, he kicked one and it had like a reverse spin or back spin on it. And when it hit the ground, it rocketed straight back to him. I think he netted like 13 yards on it or something like that.
He did not have a good day that way. Reed Sinnott for Houston. It becomes a broken record with some of these guys, whether it be a bad team, O-line, whatever. He had 134 yards. He was 19 of 34. No touchdowns, no interception, QBR 65.1. And then I almost feel like this is a broken record, but the Memphis O-line, they can't rush. They only gave up 3 sacks, so that's why they didn't make the yuck this week. They just stayed on the duds list. They only gave up 3 sacks, but they can't run the ball. They can't protect the quarterback. No time to throw. They'll probably be on the duds list for the rest of the season. I don't know. Case Cookitz, 3 fumbles. I mean, I don't want to say he single-handedly took Memphis out of that game because I don't know if Memphis had a chance to win it anyway. But they were certainly timely fumbles, timely miscues. One of them, I mean, his ankle was grabbed and he somehow coughed the ball up. So I don't know. Memphis is just – I feel bad for the Showboats, but they're a mess. And then Houston, end of story. I mean, they find ways to lose, whether it be CJ calling timeouts, giving St. Louis all day to plan for the last play with 4 seconds left in the half. I mean, pick your poison. Houston remains. And then my yuck for the week, I think I'm just going to have to put Arlington on there because they just continue to find ways to lose. Whether it be leaving too much time on the clock, miscues, fumbles, whatever the case may be, Arlington just finds a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory week after week. I don't want to see any team go 10. I just don't want them beating my team. So if that's beating somebody else, great. But, I mean, right now, it's just – I can't imagine what Bob Stoops is going through in his mind about this year because Arlington is just – I don't know. They just find ways to lose.
So when we get back, we will see if Brent and Mike have anything to add to Eric's list. I might have one. I'm not sure yet, but we'll talk about it when we get back. I'll go first, and I'm gonna add to the yuck list, and I'm gonna give you the ultimate yuck of the week.
All right.
The ultimate yuck of the week. The game 6-0. Battlehawks leading Houston Roughnecks.
That was my next.
Get the ball down to the 1 foot line. No timeouts. The clock is running out. CJ Johnson to the rescue for the Houston Roughnecks by calling not one, but calling 2 timeouts to give the Battlehawks all the time they needed to talk to the coaches and get that perfect play that was going to score them a touchdown and go up 14-0 at halftime instead of 6-0. So a big shout out to CJ for helping us with our victory on Saturday.
Thank you, CJ.
Thanks, CJ. That's my yuck it up of the week. How about Brett? What do you got?
That was mine. That was mine. But I will say this, adding on to what Eric said about Arlington, other than the first half against Birmingham this year, I felt like Arlington had played their best football against Michigan for, say, second, third quarter and part of the fourth quarter. And when they took the lead with, a minute left, I said, too much time. I said, too much time. And then who's the kid? I can't think of his name. The Michigan wideout runs the ball almost all the way down the field. Marcus Sims. And then the guy decides to just wrap his hand in his face mask and give him another 15 yards. And I'm like, hell, they don't have to run a play. Bates can kick it now. They just need to run the rest of the time out. It's like, Arlington, they really, like, there's 10 games in a season. Are you guys going to find a different way to lose all 10 weeks? Because it's something different every week, over and over and over. And I can't put my finger on exactly what the problem is there, but at times this season, like I've said, they haven't looked bad. But in key situations at the end of games, they always look bad. That's my yuck.
Yeah.
And that also is Brett's blow up.
Minor blow up. What about you, Mike?
Well, I hate to have Arlington as the punching bag, but unfortunately, I think that's just how it's gonna. One thing that I was just a little, even me rooting, as having vested interest in the Michigan Panthers, but watching at the end of the game, Arlington, they call a timeout and then they go and they throw a pass that's incomplete that before the 2 minute after the 2 minute warning and stops the clock and gets Michigan 3rd and 9 with a timeout left. So I don't know, just something there, and it's just yikes. It must be, Cowboys can't manage their own play clock or their own game clock, and then and it must be a Metro Dallas thing where they can't seem to manage clock situations. So,
well, the stadiums are adjacent to one another, so it might be something in the water.
Yeah, they got. I think the City Hall, whoever needs to go and check the water lines to see, does this test it for clock management miscues? Run some tests on it.
Yeah, I saw some Arlington fans online talking about how Stoops has forgotten how to coach and on and on and on, and it was like, ooh,
yeah.
And as bad as I want to put John's yuck up of the week, John, I'm gonna have to pass, John. I want to, but
yeah, better not.
I'm gonna take the high road. So, but I'm feeling you. I know what you're saying. Mike, what was you gonna say?
Oh, just and I've noticed in a couple other games too, where with the 3-point thing, it has coaches rethinking what's are we up one possession, or it has you thinking like you're doing football math in your head, especially with these UFL the UFL PAT rules. Okay, are we up possession, or you got to be up 10. You got to be up 10 points. So some teams when you see them going for it here or kicking a field goal here, it's like, well, wait a minute, it's still a one possession game. So I think coaches that are they gotta retool or rethink how the game is played as far as if you want to play the possession game, but it's still new to a lot of these coaches too, especially on the XFL or the USFL side of the PAT rules. But even I've seen Nolan do that too. I'm like, well, wait, it would have made more sense to go for it here versus taking the field goal. So, but hey, if you can get the win, sure. But I always like to count possessions, to see how far you're ahead. It only helps the team out or the defense, especially knowing what you're up to possessions. So you can work the clock a little bit, but hey, good football though.
That's right.
So it's about time to turn the page and get into our picks for week 7.
Oh boy.
So let's see.
I mean, I got a quick question. Am I after week 6? Am I still the big dog?
Well, let's put it this way. We all were pretty stellar this last week. You and I were both 4-0. Brett was 3-1. So for the season, Eric is leading at 17-7. I got 16-8. And Brett is at 12-12.
Back to 500. Good job, bud.
It took all I had, that's for sure.
Okay, but now you're good. But now, okay, all right. Shush. You just want to keep on going, man. They kept playing, and then I was like, what? What? Okay, first game out of the chute. ESPN game at 12 noon Saturday. Memphis at Arlington. I'll go first on this one. I think this is the week. This is the week that Arlington is finally off the schneid. If there's ever a game for them to win, this is the one.
I would have to concur. I think Arlington finally gets out. I want them to get their win against Memphis. I don't want them to come in to say, for us to go into Arlington or, whatever. And they'll get their win this week against Memphis. Arlington by 3.
Arlington by 3, as long as they got to practice. In practice this week, they got to keep drilling in their head. There's 15 minutes in the fourth quarter, not 14.
Not 14.
15. What do you think, Brett?
Finally, they get the W, Arlington.
Mike, you was that courageous guy that a few weeks back you jumped on Houston, like everybody's laughing at you, and you ended up coming through on the pick. So, are you gonna take Memphis on this one?
I'm gonna, as much as I would, you'd think I would, but I something about, Arlington's been in every game. They're due. They have to get this one. They've lost. All these games they've been in, too close, losing all these different ways. I think they're due to get this one. Until I've seen something, I haven't seen anything different with Memphis offensive line woes. So I think Arlington here.
So this is, Eric makes a good point here in the fact that, all this hoopla and hype at the beginning of the season about which division, which conference was going to be the stronger of the two. It's kind of playing out that really didn't matter. They're comparable. Both leagues were very comparable to each other.
Yep. It was fun while it lasted, right?
Yeah, that's burger now. So.
I still seen some XFL fans say, "Well, I still think the XFL was better." Yeah, and I said, "When did your last thinking check come in?" And they laugh. But there again, I'm 12-12, so I shouldn't have been the guy to relay that message. But
yeah, but you pulled a 3-1 out last week to get you back to 500. We was really going to dog you on you, but now when you're 500, you're 500. So now now it's all north from here. Okay. We're going to save the second game on Saturday for our last discussion.
Oh.
So we're gonna move on to the last game on Sunday, San Antonio at Houston.
That's San Antonio.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to see Houston rise from the ashes, I'm not seeing it, so I'm taking San Antonio too.
Houston in an upset.
Houston's.
Here comes Mr. 500 from the left field here.
Yeah, he's thinking Wade Phillips is gonna go to Houston and just not be able to. He's gonna all of a sudden think he's on Houston's sideline and he's just gonna get all discombobulated. Okay, Mike, did he steal your thunder?
I'm going horns forward on this one, so give me the Brahmas.
Look at this guy. He was like a USFL homer last time we had him picking games.
Yeah.
Now this all of a sudden he's
2 for 2
the
XFL
guy.
It's all like all in one league now.
Okay, the first game on Sunday, 11 o'clock game. Michigan makes their way to D.C. Just like Michigan had 3 home games to start the season, D.C.'s on a 3-game homestand right now. Michigan comes to town.
Go ahead, Mike. Get your Michigan pick out.
We'll let Mike go last because Mike's gonna. Something tells me he's gonna get windy on this one, so we'll let him go last. So let's have Eric go first.
All right, I'll go first in this game. I just have, even with that game, I mean, St. Louis comes in and they dog stomp DC, and then even with San Antonio coming to town, that game could have went the other way, even as ugly as it was. I just think that DC, there's something a little off there. I would even say that DC doesn't have Arlington's offense right now. I gotta go with Bates and the Michigan train on this one. Give me Michigan.
Brett.
DC. Bates isn't kicking in a dome this weekend.
They practice outside.
Come on, Brett. He's trying to change your mind at the end.
That didn't take long for him to jump in there. Like, kick it outside. They practice outside.
Oh God, I'm torn here. So Mike, you go first. Maybe I'll decide by the time you get done talking for 10 minutes.
Panthers on the prowl. Panthers on the prowl.
You got to take longer than that. Why? You got to say,
well, and everything that I'm seeing here with this Michigan team, it's good football, play smash mouth defense. Now the injury for Frank Ginda, the shoulder. I'm sure you guys may have seen him on the sideline with a sling. I do not know the extent of the injury right now, but hey, watch the film from the Arlington game, and I know DC's got some weapons. They have Chris Rowland, a Philadelphia star last year, tremendous player at wide receiver. He's definitely an impact player to watch. But I think it's gonna be smash mouth, run the ball. I think you're gonna see West. I think West Hills is gonna have a big game. So, Michigan.
I agree with you, Mike.
San Antonio did put up a lot of yards on DC on the ground this past weekend.
I can't hardly fathom. Like I said last week, I just can't see DC, going 11-0 at home and then all of a sudden losing back-to-back games. So that was my reasoning for taking DC this last week, and it worked out really well for me. But this week, boy, I don't know. I'm just still not sold. The defense is, DC, there's just something off with their offense, and they just are not clicking. And Michigan's got the kind of defense that if you don't bring it, they can shut you down. So I'm gonna go with Michigan this week. I'm gonna go with Michigan. So that brings us to the game of the week, 3 o'clock on Fox, national primetime game. Who wants to bite this apple first?
I took the last game. I'm claiming big dog status on this one. I'm going last.
I think it's going to be an instant classic. I don't even know if the spread's out yet. It's definitely, in my eyes, a preview of the championship game. something tells me even before the season started, I said I think these two teams would split this season. That means if Birmingham wins Saturday, then St. Louis would beat them in the Dome in the championship game. And I can't have that. Give me St. Louis in a awesome game Saturday. Probably 20,000 in the stands and 1.5 million viewers easy.
Are they going to let you in the game now? Or are you going to be like?
Well, I'm doing this because of superstition.
Yeah,
like I said, I think the teams will split this season, so the game Saturday really doesn't count.
You might want to reiterate what you're doing once again, just in case you caught anybody, that come on during your pick.
Yeah, Birmingham and St. Louis will split this season. St. Louis will win.
I don't need your house getting burnt down or anything like that.
St. Louis and AJ will come home, and last second touchdown will win the game at Protective Stadium. But Birmingham will be holding up the trophy at the end of the year in St. Louis for the third straight season.
So here's my take on the game. I've said all along that St. Louis has not been able to figure out how to get a true dome field advantage. It seems like they play better on the road than they do at home. And, last year they had a better record. They were 4-1 on the road. They were 3-2 at home. This year their one loss was on the road, but there's an argument to be made. They played their best football on the road and so far this season because they're just not putting game together at the Dome. I can't figure it out. So I think they're going to go into Birmingham, and I think they are going to play a hell of a game. I think with all the injuries that Birmingham has in their secondary, that AJ is going to be able to exploit them with AJ and the Battle Dragons. And I think that they're going to be able to outscore Birmingham. I think Birmingham's going to put points on the board too. This has all the makings of it could possibly be a shootout, especially if St. Louis is missing Mike Rose at middle linebacker. But I see a shootout. I see St. Louis being able to pull this one out. I wouldn't be surprised if the final score ends up in the 30s for both teams. So that's my prediction.
Beautiful.
Well, I'm not very happy because now I'm using reverse psychology.
Are you is Easy E picking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're last. I didn't get my pick yet.
Oh, you go. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So when we talk about this,
I thought you was going to be the voice of reason, Mike. I thought you was going to let us all go, and then you were going to call us ding dongs.
He's got big. He's. I mean, shoot. Where do I go from here? You got the USFL conference, XFL conference. Shoot, what do I do here? I think I have what I want to see, and I think I'm going to make the pick.
Oh, here we go. Oh, look at that.
Get me St. Louis. Keep this win would keep Michigan in arm's reach of your Birmingham Stallions, Brett. And who's to say that the USFL Championship won't be in Detroit?
Very true.
Because we got you last game of the regular season. So
see, we're all working on Sandy's confidence in this game.
Yeah. Man, I hope we can win.
I'm putting personal interest. I'm putting personal interest in my pick. So this is what. Hey, St. Louis, I need you to take care of some business for us Panthers this week.
Okay. Well, I against DC a couple weeks ago, I used the reverse psychology. So I am along Brett's thinking where I need St. Louis to lose this game so we can win in the Dome. So in order to do that, I have to choose St. Louis. I have to, because by me taking St. Louis means that we're not going to win, but it means we are going to win in the Dome, and we are going to be raising that trophy right here.
Doesn't anyone want to sweep?
You know why? You know why he went last and did that?
No, I have my pick
so
already
then
written
that
down.
way
Bud.
he could be identical to me again.
No.
So for another week, he could claim that he's got the best record.
Listen,
he's been pulling this crap all season.
Oh no! I took DC when you took St. Louis. I mean, I go by my own.
That's when you had a 2-game lead, and you knew even if you lost that one, you'd still have the lead.
Well, I mean, I'm not stupid either.
Now you're only one ahead.
Now
you're only one ahead. You're going first the rest of the
season.
Listen,
I had my picks checked. Did you have your picks checked beforehand? Before we even started talking? I had my picks checked beforehand. Saying I'm going this way. I guess if Ed goes the other way, I'm just either going to be 2 games up or whatever it is. I got to take
it.
Have to.
Oh, God. No, I'm keeping score, Sandy. You don't need to keep score.
But yes, it does appear that I will be the big dog for another week. I mean, it is throwing that out there.
So here's the last question. In fact, I'll go to a quick break to give you guys a chance to think about it. But here is the question. We're going to do, let's make that 2 questions. St. Louis will win the game Saturday if, and then after that, we're going to do Birmingham will win the game Saturday if, and we will fill in the blank when we come back. Okay, so for the final 15 minutes of the show, we're going to answer 2 burning questions. And I think
I'll go first on the first one.
How do you know which question I'm going to ask?
If St. Louis wins, that was the first one you asked.
Okay. All right.
I need to skip out as soon as possible, fellas.
St. Louis wins.
Well, no, wait a minute here. Hold on.
Oh, there you go.
Live breaking news. St. Louis will win the game on Saturday if
they do 2 things. They contain Adrian Martinez and they chew up Birmingham secondary. They do those 2 things, and I think they win the game. But they have to contain Adrian Martinez, and they've got to be able to chew up that secondary and put some yards through the air and do what St. Louis does. If they can do that, St. Louis walks away from Protective Stadium with a victory. Bang.
Okay, bro.
Breaking news.
I said it in our chat the other day watching St. Louis and Houston. Look, AJ is an NFL quarterback. He was this close to being the starter for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a good quarterback. He has played in a lot of big games in his life. He is who we thought he was. Put pressure on him. If St. Louis can protect him like they have all season, St. Louis wins.
That was short and sweet. I'll let you go, Mike, and then I'll finish the St. Louis question.
Yeah, I think my thought is with this game, I think it's going to be can St. Louis run the ball? I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. When a high stakes game, typically these take place. I think it's going to be very competitive. I think both coaches are going to consider play clock because they know how big of a game this is. You're going to be in a possession fight, and I think you're going to want to get yards on the ground, run some clock, and score points. So, from what I haven't, from week 1 to now, I mean that, from what we saw with the running game with St. Louis, I think you got to have the ground yards. You can't just throw it all the time. I think Birmingham is going to prepare all week for AJ McCarron, but can Wayne Gallman step up? Can the running game step up? So that's why I think the key ingredient for St. Louis to win this game.
I, on the other hand, have to say I totally disagree with Mike's point of view, and I'll say why. If they try and turn that game into running the ball and controlling the clock, St. Louis is going to have no shot to win that game because the Battlehawks offensive coordinator, Gronkowski, is ultra conservative. He is ultra conservative.
At times.
And I think what they have to do, number one, is they have to totally gag and bound him. They need to find a back room at the stadium, put him in there, lock the door, and just fill the air with balls, man. Just throw. Try and get Birmingham on their heels, spread the ball around, and try to make it a high-scoring, up and down the field type of a game. Because if Battlehawks go conservative, his form of conservatism is embarrassing.
I agree totally with Ed. And absolutely, you couldn't be more spot on.
And then the second thing is on defense, the Battlehawks have to be able somehow to get pressure on Martinez. They have to be able to get him out of his rhythm. They can't just let him sit back there all day and pick him apart. So if that means blitzes, whatever it means, they got to try and upset the apple cart on Martinez so he's not sitting back there comfortable. That's my two. St. Louis will win if. So
Memphis did a good job almost the entire game this past weekend of containing Martinez, not letting him beat them with his legs. But then what did he throw for, Eric? 350?
Martinez, 369.
I mean, I'll say this. I watched the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. I said one thing about it. They ain't letting him run over him. But boy, no. He sure was. He was throwing some dimes.
But the pressure needs to be there. Like I said, and Ed said it in a different way, but contain Adrian Martinez. Whether that be pressuring him, keeping him in the pocket, sending a blitzer, that kind of thing. If they don't do that, he can sit back there and pick you apart just as much with his arm as he can his legs.
And they gotta have somebody that's just scouting him and dogging him and the whole game. They can't allow him to whether it's quarterback draws, whether it's scrambling out of the pocket. They've got to have somebody that's going to be assigned to him to try. And the defensive line, as much as I'd like them to pin their ears back and go after him, they got to be disciplined enough that they don't create those lanes for him to get out of the pocket.
And I agree with Sabrina on the comment line. I definitely do not see St. Louis coming into Birmingham and running the ball with, I would say, minimal effectiveness, average at best. They to me, this game is going to be won by St. Louis in the air. I'm with Ed. Air raid it, chew up that secondary. If they have a couple guys out, put pressure on them. Find those one-on-one matchups. Find where Hakeem Butler can get into the middle, whatever it is. You have got, in my opinion, to beat Birmingham through the air, because you want to run into the teeth of that defense. Great, fine, go ahead. I just don't think you're going to do it on a consistent basis. But what one thing St. Louis can do is they can move the ball down the field through the air with A.J. McCarron and that host of receivers that they have. So I just think we got to throw the ball. We got to throw the ball. We cannot be conservative. We've got to take it to them. We've got to turn into a track meet. If they keep up, great. If they don't, then do DC. I don't care. You've got to turn into a track meet. You've got to try to put them away.
And I know that Eric makes a comment here, Pete, Feeney have to have a big day. We brought Pete in for a reason. I was listening to an interview with Coach Beck today, and he made the comment that he talked to his team about big name, but big game day players got to have big day. I mean, if you're going to be a big player, you got to have a big day. That's what these kind of games are for. If you're an AJ McCarron, if you're a Hakeem Butler, you're Shepard, Aitman, you name it. Big players shine on games like this, and so they just have to bring it. Everybody's got to be ready to play. So on the other end, Birmingham will win this game Saturday if.
You want me to go first again?
I'll go.
Well,
go ahead, Brett.
Go ahead, Brett.
If they get AJ off his spot, I've said it, and I'll say it again. This whole game, we know who both teams are. There's not a whole lot of surprises here. Doesn't mean they're both going to be in the championship game, but right now they are definitely the best two teams right now. They've got the wide receivers. Look, they've got a solidified offensive line, although they're a little banged up. Birmingham's got 3 guys in the secondary that probably will not be in this weekend. I know 2 for sure. You've got to put pressure on AJ. I'd send 5 every other play. Of course, you can't send them more than that because they stretch the field. But if they sack AJ for 3 times, that means they probably hit him for additional 7 to 10 times. If they sack AJ 3 times Saturday, Birmingham wins.
Mike?
Yeah, I think Birmingham wins here. Just keep doing what they're doing. Keep, Adrian Martinez, keep throwing. And I'm thinking, because I don't know how the secondary, how will the secondary for the Battlehawks hold up against this, against this team? They've been skeptic of the secondary from what I've, reading from, I'm hearing what Battlehawks fans with their secondary from the start of the season to now. So this is a big time matchup, but I'm also thinking which team is going to have that play under wraps that you've been kind of saving along this entire year and bringing it out for this game. So are we going to see some special teams, who's going to run the punt fake? Because there are going to be some times where you're around the 40-yard line. Oh, let's try to keep a possession going and take one away from the other team. So I think you might see who's going to be the team that pulls the rabbit out of a hat in this game and maybe steal one. So, but for Birmingham to win this game, just take care of Adrian Martinez, but stop these receivers for St. Louis, and you'll have a good shot.
My turn, Ed?
Yes.
Okay. I think we all pretty much have this game read the same way. I wrote down if they can control the pass game and they can put pressure and move AJ around, Birmingham wins. Whether that be sacking, Like you said, Brett, moving him off his spot, whatever it is, not allowing AJ to get comfortable back there and absolutely pick you apart, rush his throws, speed the clock up a little bit. Birmingham wins the game. But that's what they need to do. I think we're probably all pretty much in agreement with you got to control the passing game. I just hope that St. Louis comes out with the passing game. That'll be the big question. Gradkowski decides he, I don't know, wants to run the ball 25 times. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it looks like.
So I would say if there was one area of weakness that I see with AJ, AJ is a quality quarterback, but if I had to say one thing that could control St. Louis is I think you got to bring the heat on AJ. AJ's been known to get happy feet and kind of start watching the rush a little bit instead of looking down the field on when the offensive line's not holding up and the pressure's coming fast and furious. That's where I think AJ is not at his best. When AJ has an opportunity to sit back there and go through his progressions, I just don't see how you stop him. So I think it's just critical that Birmingham brings the heat. Then the second thing I would say is really Birmingham just needs to be Birmingham. I mean, Birmingham isn't undefeated. It isn't a fluke. It's not a fluke that they've won the last 2 championships of the USFL. I mean, Birmingham just has to not do anything that they haven't done all along. I mean, I'm sure Skip Holtz is going to talk to them all and just tell them, hey, guys, this is just another football game on the schedule. Go out there and play Birmingham football. And Birmingham being Birmingham and Birmingham bringing the heat on AJ, that's, I think, is the combination for a Birmingham win. Now we just got to make sure that they don't watch this. How do we do that?
Right.
AJ, you should have came home when you came back to the UFL. Big mistake.
Like I said,
we're gonna welcome you home Saturday, baby.
Like I said, before the season, this is a it couldn't be any more perfect of a scenario. This is a Karnak moment for Big Daddy Ed. And that I've said all along, you guys don't worry down there in Birmingham. AJ's coming back. He's going to be a battle hawk. And ain't it going to be nice when he goes to Birmingham, Alabama, in front of the crowd that cheered him on to the 2 national championships and sticks it to him in the front of their home crowd. Would that not just be fitting?
That pretty Battle Hawk helmet at the end of the game is going to look a little different. It's going to have some of that stallion crimson on it. It's going to favor an Alabama helmet.
Man.
So
couple feathers plucked off of the wings there.
So I'm hoping that I get to go to the game, but we'll have to see. Had some unfortunate event happen last night, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get away. But if I would love nothing more than to be there. But
in all seriousness, though, I really expect an epic game.
I do too.
Very close game, and I think a lot of people will be watching. I think this game could really propel the league into the future and into year 2, year 3, year 4. I think in year 3 and 4, people will probably look back at this game.
Man, if this one was a 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock kickoff.
I know.
The lights on, then I think
I'm still thinking 1.5 million viewers, man. And I know there's been some games this year with 1.1, something like that.
1.3, I think, is the high.
Yeah, I'd be floored if it's not 1.5, although it's a 3 o'clock start.
Also on a Saturday, though. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Imagine if it was 7 o'clock, like you said, though. Our next game next week's at 7 o'clock. The Houston game.
Television picks
the Houston game.
Maybe we need to pull another Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and do this. Watch this game together, huh?
That'll be a chance for sure.
As long as you've got your beeper ready.
Yeah.
As always, thanks, Mike, for joining us. Everybody, be ready Saturday for the big game, because as they say, 2 of them go in, 1 is limping out. So let's just hope that the Battlehawks aren't clipped and the Stallions are, they like to call them ponies, but anyway,
that's all right, because I think we'll have a chance to trample that battle chicken again later on in the year.
Maybe.
Watch it end up being Michigan and DC or Michigan and San Antonio. Everybody's looking at each other like, what?
But hey, when you notice these XFL, USFL, and these conference in these championship games that go to the championship, there's usually there's usually a surprise in one of those.
Look at Arlington and DC last year. DC was the best team all year. I don't think anybody could question that. And Arlington came out of nowhere.
Philadelphia Stars over the New Jersey Generals. That was
and New Jersey was definitely a better team that year. Yeah. Perez, however you say that.
Yeah.
Where's Gabe? We got to bring Gabe on.
Everybody have a good rest of your week. We'll see you on Saturday. I'm hoping we see an epic game. Take care, everybody.